Cultivation is all about gathering energy inside the body to get stronger and live forever. But only a few ever manage to do it. Most people are just regular humans who can't even sense the energy around them. Still, every now and then, fate throws a special gift at someone unexpected. The story kicks off with some men working in a field. One of them rushes over to another and tells him something about his wife. Without a second thought, the man drops his tools and runs straight home. When he gets there, he finds his wife holding a newborn baby. His heart swells with joy as he looks at his child. Turning to his wife, he asks what they should name the baby. She suggests a name, and together they settle on calling him Luigi. But the world he's born into is harsh and unforgiving. Fast forward 20 years, and Luigi is sprawled on the ground, completely beaten in a spar, while a bunch of students watches. An elder steps up and announces Yan Li as the winner. Yan Li looks smug, like he's ready to keep going. But another student just scoffs, thinking he took way too long to win. The crowd gets bored and walks away, leaving Luigi lying there, battered and broken. As pain shoots through his body, his mind drifts, and he hears his mother's voice calling his name. Some students help him up while the elder orders them to take him to the old healer. Luigi slowly opens his eyes, pain still weighing him down. He wakes up, but nothing makes sense. The place looks unfamiliar, the people around him are strangers, and he has no clue what's going on. The weirdest part? They keep calling him Luigi, but that name means nothing to him. Before he can even try to figure things out, everything fades to black again. Sometime later, Luigi comes to. Right in front of him, an old man is doing some strange technique. The old man glances his way and tells him to stay put since his injuries aren't healed yet. Luigi stares as the old man opens a cauldron, pulls out a pill, and casually drops it into his mouth. The old man tells him the pill's energy will help heal him soon. Luigi, still confused as hell, looks around before asking where he is and who the old man even is. The old man stops, clearly caught off guard by the question. He starts thinking maybe Luigi hit his head harder than he thought. After a pause, he explains that this place is the Cloudy Peak sect and that Luigi is one of its disciples. Luigi just gets even more lost. Nothing rings a bell, not even his own name. The old man sighs, saying he has other things to do. Before leaving, he tells Luigi to try remembering his past while the pill does its thing. If nothing comes back, he'll whip up another pill to help. Alone, Luigi's mind drifts back to an old memory. He remembers being a kid, standing outside the village with his mother. Out of nowhere, a wolf lunged at them. Just before it could strike, a cultivator appeared and took it down in seconds. The cultivator barely spared them a glance before warning that mortals had no business wandering outside like this. He told them to head back to the village. Luigi's mother thanked him, but Luigi could only stare, completely in awe. That one word, cultivator, stuck in his head. And then, it hits him. This is a cultivation world, just like the ones in the comics he used to read. More memories start flooding in. When Luigi got older, he wanted to join a sect, just like in the stories. Since he had chi, they actually accepted him. But life in the sect wasn't the dream he thought it would be. He was weak, and every spar ended the same way, with him flat on the ground. One fight stands out in his mind. His opponent wiped the floor with him and then had the nerve to mock him, saying he should just quit before he got himself killed. It was always like that. He was always getting injured, always being carried off to the old healer like some broken doll. The old man had seen him in this state more times than Luigi could count. Every time, he shook his head and told him to be more careful. But unlike everyone else, the old man never looked down on him. He was the only one who treated Luigi like family, like his own grandson. Now somehow, Luigi has ended up in the original Luigi's place in this world. He wonders about the reason for his death in his original world. He gets up and is surprised to see his healed body. His injuries have quickly disappeared. There is no advanced technology here, but the magic of this world heals wounds in a way that science never could. As he walks around the room, his eyes land on a book about alchemy. The book says that alchemists do not fight. Instead, they focus on healing and improving society. Luigi realizes, if this world works like the comics he has read, then cultivators can be brutal. A single mistake could lead to death. He already knows how powerless he is against them. But if he becomes an alchemist, he can use his knowledge of chemistry to survive in this world. Science is the study of nature. If the laws of his old world do not apply here, he just has to learn the new ones. He can make money by selling pills and live a comfortable life. There is no guarantee he can return home, so he must focus on surviving. Meanwhile, the old man comes back and asks what Luigi is doing. Luigi knows he has to do whatever it takes to survive. He silently apologizes to the original Luigi and decides to give up the dream of becoming a cultivator. Instead, he will become an alchemist. He bows before the old man and requests him to teach him alchemy. The old man is surprised but quickly refuses. Luigi gets caught off guard and asks why. The old man explains that alchemy is a lifelong commitment, and he has no interest in taking on a student who isn't serious about it. Luigi can tell the old man doesn't believe him. The real Luigi never cared about alchemy, so this sudden interest must seem fake. But Luigi has no other option. If he wants to survive in this world, he needs a way to make a living. He stands firm and says the spar opened his eyes. He finally understands. He has no talent for cultivation. But alchemy? That's a different story. He sees a new path, a way to improve, a way to carve out his own place in this brutal world. He asks the old man to take him in as an apprentice. The old man studies him for a moment before asking what alchemy means to him. Luigi digs through his memory, trying to recall what he read in books. Alchemy is the process of refining herbs and resources to create elixirs and pills. That's what the book said. He gives this answer, but immediately realizes it's too basic. That's not what the old man is really asking. He stops and thinks, what does alchemy truly mean to him in this world of magic and cultivation? After a moment, he speaks again. Alchemy is the study of nature, a way to understand how the world works. It's more than just making pills. It's a path of knowledge and science, something that can push this world forward, bringing technology and development into a place ruled by magic. The old man nods and tells Luigi that he is correct. Perhaps he misjudged him. The path of alchemy may truly be right for him. If Luigi really wants to become an alchemist, he must bow down 3 times and agree to take the old man as his master. Luigi does as he is told, and formally accepts him as his master. After that, the old man then begins the first lesson. He explains that Luigi must start by learning about ingredients, their properties, the potency of herbs, and the purity of their essence. He also needs to understand the time and techniques required to refine them. After that, he will learn how to use the cauldron to make pills. The old man hands him a book titled The Fundamentals of Alchemy, Part 1. The book contains recipes for 3 basic pills. Once Luigi successfully brews all 3, he will officially become a junior alchemist. As Luigi looks through the book, he notices that these recipes seem very old. It looks like they were made centuries ago. The fact that he is asked to follow them without changes makes him wonder why no one has tried to improve them. He asks the old man about this. The old man responds that these recipes were created by their venerable ancestors, and that trying to change them would be foolish. Luigi looks at the book again, and thinks that if these recipes are so old, they must be outdated. The old man is surprised by his words, and looks at Luigi closely. He senses that something about Luigi has changed since the spar. 2 hours later, Luigi tells the old man that he has memorized all the recipes. The old man is shocked. It should have taken days, not hours. To test Luigi, the old man asks about the use of glacial spirit poison. Luigi explains that it slows down the heart and body, making the victim cold before causing death by heart failure. However, it can also be used to counteract strong spirit poisons by slowing their spread and reducing fever. The old man is even more astonished to know that Luigi has indeed memorized everything. Luigi confirms calling him master, and he realizes it's been years since someone called him master. The old man asks Luigi if he has learned alchemy before. At the same time, he wonders if Luigi has always been a genius. Luigi tells him that this is his first time learning alchemy, but he is very good at memorizing names and descriptions. He thinks to himself that years of cramming for exams in his past life are finally helping him. The old man accepts his answer and says they will now learn how to use the cauldron. He asks Luigi why alchemists use cauldrons for refining. Luigi answers that the shape of the cauldron allows for even heat distribution and can hold a lot of ingredients. The old man agrees, but explains that size is not the most important factor. Many alchemists use small cauldrons that are larger on the inside. The real reason they use cauldrons is that they can hold kuai. Luigi is surprised when he sees the old man's key. He realizes he never knew which realm his master belonged to. The old man then explains that 3 things define an alchemist's talent. First is their sensitivity to ki. Second is their ability to control chi. And lastly, luck. Luigi doesn't get why luck matters. The old man shakes his head and says even the best alchemists fail sometimes. No matter how skilled they are, success isn't guaranteed. In the end, the heavens decide when a pill will form. Luigi isn't convinced. He thinks about alchemy and wonders if making pills is just chemistry or something beyond magic. If it follows natural laws, then luck shouldn't matter. He should be able to find the best conditions to get the perfect result every time. He asks if alchemy is just about being blessed, but the old man corrects him. Luck is out of their control, so there's no point worrying about it. What truly matters is sensitivity to chi and the ability to control it. The heavens favor those who put in the effort. Chi sensitivity and control can be trained, and a good cauldron helps by guiding the chi and essence inward. To demonstrate, the old man refines a simple chi gathering pill using his ki. He holds it up and explains that this pill can restore someone's ki when they're running low. Then, he turns to Lujie and tells him to make one. Lujie stares at the cauldron like it just grew legs. The old man notices his hesitation and asks what's wrong. That's when it hits Lujie. He doesn't even know how to start the fire. The old man sighs, already regretting this decision. This is going to be a long road. Chapter 3. Lujie drags the broom across the ground, lost in his thoughts. Learning alchemy costs money, but to make money, he needs alchemy. It's a never-ending trap. The talented disciples get all the good resources, while outer disciples like him do all the grunt work for scraps. He barely has enough to eat, let alone enough to leave the sect. From his memories, he knows about the Spirit Herb Garden, a restricted area for inner disciples. They say it's filled with rare herbs worth a fortune. If he could just get inside, he'd have all the ingredients he needs. Someone calls out to him, snapping him out of his thoughts. He looks up and recognizes the guy, Su Lin. The name feels familiar, but his memories are all over the place. Su Lin gives him a knowing look and warns him to keep his head down. If the Thunder Phoenix bloodline disciples notice him again, they'll beat him into the ground. Lujie nods. That's exactly why he needs to get out of here. If those guys come after him again, he doesn't want to be the punching bag. He turns to Su Lin and asks how long he's been in the sect. Su Lin shrugs and says a decade. That means he probably knows a lot of outer sect disciples, and maybe even some from the inner sect. But from what Lujie can sense, Su Lin is still stuck in the second realm, meaning he's even weaker than Lujie, who's already scraping the bottom. There is no reason to stay here if someone is not growing stronger, yet Su Lin remains. Lujie believes he knows why. Lujie asks Su Lin if he knows anyone who works in the Spirit Herb Garden. Su Lin is cautious and asks why it matters. Lujie thinks that Su Lin must know someone inside the garden. He is probably selling herbs to make money, which is why he stays in the outer sect. Lujie decides to make a deal. He offers Su Lin a pill, one of the few he managed to refine successfully. An outer sect disciple like Lujie would never have access to a pill like this. So to Su Lin, it must look stolen. Lujie tells Su Lin that he has more pills, but he needs spirit herbs. If Su Lin brings him spirit herbs, he will give him 5 pills. Su Lin can sell them, and they will share the profits. If Su Lin proves trustworthy, Lujie will also offer him stronger pills. Lujie knows he is taking a risk. He is asking Su Lin to join him in something risky. If Su Lin refuses and reports him to an elder, he will be in serious trouble. But Su Lin asks how many pills Lujie can make each week. Lujie replies that he can provide a small handful. Su Lin turns away, and Lujie feels uncertain. He wonders if his plan has failed. Maybe it was too easy to hope for success. Then, Su Lin gives him a location, the second tree near the outer walls, where they will meet every 7 days in the evening. Lujie feels relieved as his trick worked. The weak pulse from the failed pills in his pocket made it seem like he was carrying a high-grade pill. If this deal works out, Lujie will have a fast way to obtain spirit herbs. He will be able to practice alchemy without losing money. Soon, he will have enough wealth to finally leave the sect. Later, when Lujie returns to his alchemy room, he stops in surprise. The room is a mess. He notices a rat eating something. He smiles, realizing that this rat is the one who has been eating his pills. When the rat sees Lujie, it gets scared and tries to run away, but Lujie quickly catches it with his hands. As he looks closely at the rat, it suddenly starts glowing. Lujie gets surprised. He wonders if this is what he thinks it is. He warns the rat not to move and threatens to feed it to a cat. The rat, understanding his words, becomes terrified. Lujie is surprised. It can understand him, which means this is not an ordinary rat. Lujie searches through his things and finally finds a book about spirit animals. As he reads, he learns that spirit rats are pests that eat spirit herbs and damage crops. They are not useful for combat and make poor familiars. However, they are very good at finding spirit herbs in the wild. An idea comes to Lujie's mind that he can use this rat to find spirit herbs outside the sect. That way, he will not have to rely only on Su Lin. Just then, the rat starts sniffing Lujie, making him scold it to stay put. The rat makes an innocent face, trying to look cute. Lujie tries to resist, but the rat looks even more innocent, making his heart soften. Lujie sighs and gives the rat a pill to eat. As he pets the rat's head, he calls it a smart little creature and decides to name it Lab Rat, or Labby for short. But Lujie has another plan in mind. He tells the rat that it must repay him for all the pills it has stolen. He already knows how to do that. Lujie laughs out loud while Labby, not understanding anything, happily eats its food. Lujie sits in the forest, stirring his soup. He takes a sip, smacks his lips, and decides it needs more spice. Labby scurries out of the bushes, carrying a bunch of herbs in his tiny paws. Seeing him, Lujie grins. That little guy never fails to deliver. Labby darts back into the bushes, hunting for more. Luigi inspects the herbs. They're not as strong as the ones from the Spirit Herb Garden, but they're easy to find, which makes them perfect for testing. He picks one and tosses it into the pot. Some might say it's a waste, but he knows better. Good food fuels the body, and the right herbs strengthen the soul. As the soup simmers, he feels his chi control sharpening, like his body is finally syncing with the world around him. He pours the soup into 2 bowls and calls Labby over. Labby's eyes sparkle as he dashes forward, tail twitching in excitement. Together they dig in. After finishing, Luigi pulls out his diary. He hasn't felt this at peace in a long time. Maybe he could get used to this life, but deep down, he knows that even alchemists need cultivation to grow. He sits down to meditate, but something feels off. His qi isn't cycling properly. Frowning, he flips through a book, searching for answers. He decides to adjust his technique, shaping his qi flow differently. This time it works. The energy moves smoothly through his body, filling him with a strange, refreshing power. He counts the cycles, 16, then 82. When he opens his eyes, he knows something has changed. But before he can think too much, he realizes how much time has passed. He pats Labby and says it's time to head back. Labby shivers at the sudden announcement, but still scrambles onto Luigi's shoulder. As they leave, Luigi brushes his fingers against the grass. It looks longer than before, but he doesn't give it much thought. The moment he walks away, the grass stretches taller, and flowers bloom in his wake. Back in the alchemy room, Luigi starts making soup again using his power. He has already failed 5 times and wasted many herbs, but he does not give up. He hopes the 6th time will work. The elixir is ready, and he prepares to test a new ingredient. He asks Labby to bring him a flower. Labby also brings herbs, and Luigi takes a deep breath. He motivates himself that he can do this. He believes the spirit refining lotus will improve the recipe, at least in theory. Luigi puts the herbs into the cauldron but suddenly feels something is wrong. There is too much qi, and he becomes nervous. A large amount of qi starts coming out of the cauldron, surprising him. After a while, everything calms down. Luigi opens the cauldron lid and sees something amazing. He realizes he has just made his first cultivator energy drink. After that, the old man looks at the cultivation energy drink that Luigi made. He notices that Luigi changed the recipe, even though he warned him not to. Luigi admits that he made changes, but he believes the new version is a little better and more cost-efficient. The old man asks if Luigi knows why changing recipes is not allowed. Luigi does not know, but he senses that the old man is worried. The old man explains that the ancestors who built the 7 celestial peaks and formed the Cloudy Peak sect also created an alchemy vault. This vault holds many secret recipes that the ancestors left behind. They protect these recipes by only allowing simplified versions in public books. Any new or modified recipes are either banned or taken into the vault. This rule was first made to stop dangerous alchemy, but over time, it became a way to control knowledge. People who try to create new recipes usually stay hidden. Those who do not hide often face mysterious accidents and die. The old man warns Luigi to think carefully before continuing down this dangerous path. Luigi takes a moment to think. He realizes that he does not want to be a simple alchemist under the sect, unable to experiment. He dreams of being free from sect politics and using science to improve this world. If he can understand the laws of cultivation, he believes he can change everything and create a new home for himself. Before Luigi can speak, the old man stops him. He already understands what Luigi is thinking. He tells Luigi that nothing he says will change his mind. He accepts that this might be Luigi's destiny. However, he advises Luigi to be fully committed. If he is going to challenge the elders, he must do it with all his strength. Then, the old man leaves. Luigi thanks him, but before disappearing, the old man reminds him to come for his next lesson at the same time tomorrow. Luigi smiles and assures him. As evening arrives, Luigi prepares to meet Sulin. He checks on Labby, who is wrapped in a small bundle, and reassures him that everything is okay. Luigi walks ahead and sees a student coming toward him. He does not want to be noticed, so he keeps walking straight and avoids eye contact. He thinks that the fewer people who know him in the sect, the easier it will be for him to leave. Luigi's heart pounds as he scans the darkened path ahead, hoping Sulin hasn't abandoned him. After walking for a while, he spots Sulin sprawled on the ground, resting like he has all the time in the world. The moment Sulin sees him, he motions for Luigi to follow. Something about this feels off. Luigi tenses, his mind racing. If Sulin has set him up, he needs to be ready to bolt. Labby, sensing his unease, starts glowing faintly, but Luigi signals him to stay calm. No need to panic just yet. Sulin leads him to a secluded spot, away from prying eyes. He gets straight to the point, asking if Luigi brought the pills. Luigi nods and asks if Sulin has the herbs. They exchange items, the air thick with unspoken tension. The moment the trade is complete, Luji can't shake the feeling that he just pulled off a crime, because he basically did. Sulin examines the pills, his expression shifting from doubt to admiration. He clearly hadn't expected Luji to actually succeed. Luji, ever the businessman, reminds him of their deal. He gets 75% of the profit. Sulin shrugs and agrees, promising to have the money by next week. Without another word, he turns and walks off, disappearing into the night. Luji exhales, relieved that everything went smoothly. He tells Labby they should head back, but as he reaches for the bundle where Labby was hiding, his stomach drops. Labby is gone. Before he can process what's happening, a terrified scream cuts through the quiet night. His head snaps toward the sound. His instincts scream trouble. Whatever Labby is up to, it's probably not good. Luji sees a girl freaking out. She's yelling at Labby to stay away from her. Labby gets scared and runs back to Luji. The girl looks super freaked out and says she can't stand rats. Luji quickly says sorry, calling her senior sister, and promises to keep a better eye on Labby next time. Then he realizes it's Yan Yun, the granddaughter of the sect leader. Yan Yun looks pissed and tells Luji that Labby ate her pill. Luji starts stressing, thinking Labby might get them both in trouble. But to his surprise, Yan Yun suddenly tells him to forget about it. Luji is caught off guard and asks her to say it again. Yan Yun repeats she's letting it go. Luji thinks she's nicer than he thought. Then she looks at Luji and asks why he's in this secluded spot with a rat. Luji gets nervous and quickly makes up an excuse. He says Labby can help him find spirit herbs. Yan Yun looks confused and doesn't believe a rat could do that. She says a spirit rat is the weakest spirit animal she's ever heard of. Then she asks where Luji found Labby. Luji hesitates but says Labby just showed up in his room and started eating his stuff. Yan Yun thinks Luji is weird and keeps asking questions. She asks what he does with all the herbs he finds. Luji knows he can't let her figure out he's making pills, so he lies and says he eats them. Yan Yun is shocked and cannot believe what she just heard. She wonders what is wrong with Luji. Luji casually tells her that spirit herbs actually taste good if cooked. Yan Yun finds him even stranger than before. She observes his simple appearance, his awkward smile, and the way his eyes wander. She notices that he does not show any interest in her at all. Yan Yun thinks about how she comes from a strong bloodline and has high cultivation. Many noble families offer to marry her every year, yet Luji shows no reaction to her beauty. She wonders if he simply has no interest in women. Then she suddenly senses another boy hiding nearby. As Luji prepares to leave, Yan Yun comes to a conclusion. He must be meeting this other boy in secret for a forbidden romance. She assumes that their love is not meant to be, and that is why Luji is avoiding attention. Meanwhile, Luji simply walks away, unaware of what she is thinking. Luji is about to leave when Yan Yun suddenly asks him to stop and tells him to share his name. When Yujie introduces himself, she tells him that normally she would not allow him to visit this place again because it is her private spot for rest. However, she changes her mind and allows Luji to visit this place as long as he keeps it a secret, except for the other person who already knows about it. Luji gets shocked and wonders how she knows about Sulin. Yan Yun, however, believes she has confirmed her theory that Luji is meeting someone in secret for a forbidden romance. She swears to protect his secret as if it were her own. Luji thanks her but thinks she might be a little strange or even crazy. He also wonders why she is being so kind even though Labby stole her pill. Later, Luji returns to his alchemy room and feels relieved that he got out of that situation unharmed. He thinks that the interaction he had with Yan Yun was the strangest interaction he has ever had. He decides that from now on, he should be more careful with Labby and avoid Yan Yun as much as possible. Then, Luji gets back to work. He considers an idea. If can extract the essence from spirit grass and study its properties, he might be able to grow spirit herbs himself. If he can also speed up their growth, he will no longer have to rely on Sulin or outside sources. It is just a theory for now, but if it works, it could change everything. Labby suddenly comes running and jumps into Luji's hands, looking frightened. Luji tries to calm him down, then notices a cat nearby. He realizes Labby was scared of the cat, amused. He expected a spirit animal to be braver. He makes the cat leave from there and tells her not to eat Labby since he is an important assistant and spirit herb detector. Luji also notes that Labby seems to be getting smarter. He has even seen him trying to cultivate, though he is not sure if Labby understands what he is doing. Luji then continues his experiment. He tries to channel his chi through spirit essence water, but finds that the essence pushes back. He realizes he cannot use normal chi saturation and decides to try something different. By splitting his chui into two parts, he attempts to connect with the spirit essence water. His first experiment is a success. The next day, Labby enjoys his food peacefully when something starts shining above his head. He looks up and hears a voice asking for his name. Labby is surprised and wonders if the QE is speaking to him. He introduces himself, but the strange presence mispronounces his name. Labby insists that his name is Labby and not something else. The presence finds Labby's name strange and unfamiliar, but Labby proudly declares that his great master gave him this name, so it must be the best name. Labby then becomes excited and runs toward Lu Jie. He jumps onto Lu Jie's shoulder and speaks in his own language, declaring that he wants to be his assistant and learn his sacred arts, and he will return his favor. However, Lu Jie cannot understand Labby's words. He pats Labby's head, and Labby wonders how he can help Lu Jie if they cannot communicate. Labby jumps down and moves toward a book, thinking that the divine text might help. But he soon remembers that he cannot read. Without the ability to speak or read, he does not know how he will learn from his master and make his own pills. Then he smells a strange scent. The smell reminds him of something: storm and lightning. Labby suddenly remembers Yan Yun and realizes the scent is familiar. Curious, Labby runs upstairs and struggles to open a drawer. He uses all his strength and finally manages to pull it open. Inside, he sees a large collection of herbs. He is amazed by the sight, but more than that, he finds them delicious. Meanwhile, Lu Jie finishes his work and examines his results. He successfully produces another batch of pills. Qi Gathering Pill. Production cost, 1 silver 7 copper. Selling price, 5 silver. Effectiveness increased from 9% to 11%. Cost reduction, 3.2%. Body Purification Pill. Production cost, 2 silver. Selling price, 7 silver 8 copper. Effectiveness increased by 2% to 3%. No cost reduction. Qi Reinforcement Pill. Production cost, 6 silver. Selling price, unknown. Effectiveness increase and cost reduction, unclear. Lu Jie realizes that despite living in a world of magic, he is doing a lot of bookkeeping. His latest batch should earn him around 20 silver. If opening his own shop costs 20 gold, and he makes about 25 silver per week, he calculates that he needs 80 more weeks of work. Though the goal feels far away, he refuses to get discouraged. Then, he notices an open drawer. He wonders if he left it open, and reminds himself to keep the herbs covered to prevent bugs from getting in. But when he looks inside, he is shocked. Electricity crackles from within, and something moves rapidly inside. Suddenly, it strikes him with a powerful jolt. Shocked, Lu Jie looks up and sees Labby standing in front of him. He is stunned to see electricity sparking all around Labby. When Lu Jie touches him, he gets shocked again. He quickly realizes what happened. Labby ate all the herbs inside the drawer. Lu Jie looks at Labby, realizing that he has eaten all the herbs and evolved into an electric type. He calls Labby a sneaky little rat for eating them. Meanwhile, Yan Yun sits in a meditative pose, focusing on her training. She takes a deep breath, but suddenly someone knocks on her door, breaking her concentration. She gets annoyed but quickly calms herself and allows them to enter. A servant named Zhu Ri steps in and apologizes for disturbing her. Yan Yun reassures her that it was only a brief meditation and asks if she found anything. Zhu Ri reports that she found details about Lu Jie in the archives. He is unremarkable in most ways, but there is something curious. He has stopped sparring and cultivating. Instead, he spends his time as an apprentice to Lao Zhang, an old alchemist. Yan Yun realizes that this explains why he was covered in spirit herb qi when she last saw him. She finds it strange that he has not joined the alchemy halls. Zhu Ri suggests that he may have switched to alchemy after losing a spar, hoping for a different path. Yan Yun feels something is off. She asks if Zhu Ri knows anything about a certain other person, but stops herself, remembering her oath. Zhu Ri reveals that Lu Jie visits the grove every week. Yan Yun is pleased, thinking she was worried their last meeting had scared him away. When Zhu Ri asks if she should look into the other person, Yan Yun refuses, keeping her promise. After Zhu Ri leaves, Yan Yun considers sneaking into the grove to watch them, but she decides against it, thinking she will simply enjoy the mystery by herself. Meanwhile, Lu Jie walks through the inner sect, observing the cultivators around him. He wonders why cultivation is limited to those with talent, as everyone cannot get it by effort. If it is a force of nature, then it must follow rules. He becomes angry and clenches his fist. He feels a deep annoyance, unsure if it is his own or a memory from the original Lu Jie. His ki shifted, and something about this felt right. This frustration sparks an idea, a set of laws to guide people, a way to break down the mysteries of cultivation like a science. Labby suddenly shocks Lu Jie, snapping him out of his thoughts. Lu Jie thanks Labby for the reminder and steps forward. Finally, he reaches a door. He knocks and enters and greets the elder to register his spirit companion. The elder stares at him intensely, making Lu Jie sweat. Even Labby feels the pressure. Then, the elder relaxes and asks Lu Jie to show his spirit. Lu Jie presents Labby, but the elder looks at him with disbelief, calling Labby a pest. Luji insists that Labby is useful, but Labby gets angry and releases an electric attack. The elder easily removes the attack and tells Luji to control his spirit better. Luji quickly apologizes, but the elder seems intrigued. He acknowledges that Labby is special, but questions why Luji would choose a spirit rat. Luji explains that Labby is skilled at finding spirit herbs. The elder accepts this and registers Labby as Luji's spirit companion. As Luji turns to leave, the elder stops him. Behind the elder, a spirit, Shan Yue, appears and seems interested in Labby. After the meeting, Luji leaves and realizes that he needs to be stricter with Labby. That situation could have ended much worse. He does not want to anger an elder. Labby comes out of the pouch, and Luji wonders what the elder's spirit gave him. Labby realizes Shan Yue knew what he desired and gave something to Labby in a gift. Labby looks at the item and hears the spirit's voice. The spirit tells him that gaining a human form comes at a cost. It warns him to think carefully. If he eats the item, he can temporarily become human, but it will not last. Labby prepares to eat it. Luji arrives at 7th Peak City, and he is amazed by the sights. He can feel the chi in the air. Living among cultivators, he never realized how different ordinary people are. Even Labby has more ki than them. Luji reminds himself to focus. He is here for a reason. He needs to find an alchemy shop. As he walks, he notices a crowd gathered around a man making a grand announcement. The man claims that a special formation amulet, crafted by the disciples of the great Xiao Sun, can withstand even the strongest strikes. He challenges anyone to break through the ward and promises to sell it at half price if they succeed. Luji assumes it is a trick, but is suddenly called out by the man. The crowd turns to him, and a small child encourages him to try. Feeling pressured, Luji agrees. The man introduces him to the crowd and offers the amulet for free if he breaks it. Luji studies the amulet and thinks there must be a trick. He doubts he can break it, but decides to try. Luji punches the amulet, but it remains intact while his hand throbs in pain. The man praises Luji's effort, proving that the amulet's ward is unbreakable. Luji realizes it is not exactly a scam. The ward truly works, but he has no way of measuring his own strength. As he leaves, the man continues selling amulets. The little boy calls out to Luji and gives him something as a thank you for playing along. Luji refuses the gift and instead asks where to find cheap but good alchemical tools. The boy gives him directions to an old lady who sells the best pills and herbs. Luji thanks him and prepares to find the mysterious shop. Meanwhile, Yan Yun secretly follows Luji. She knows she should not be doing this, but she cannot resist. She is convinced that Luji is on his way to a secret meeting with his lover. Luji senses a familiar chi but does not pay much attention, focusing on the directions. As he walks, he suddenly spots Sulin and wonders what he is doing here. He debates whether he should follow, but eventually decides to. Yan Yun also sees Sulin and becomes even more convinced that Luji is meeting a secret lover. Luji follows Sulin through the streets but loses sight of him. He wonders if Sulin sensed his chi and disappeared. As he turns to leave, Sulin suddenly appears behind him and presses a knife to his throat, demanding to know why he is following him. Luji panics, but quickly explains that he was just trying to confirm Sulin's identity. Sulin lowers the knife and tells him he thought it was Joe Lackey following him. He casually remarks that Luji has changed. He used to be timid, but now he seems different. Yan Yun watches in the distance and misinterprets the situation. She sees their close proximity and thinks they are lovers. She leaves from there and is convinced that she has caught them in a forbidden romance. Sulin ignores Luji's nervousness and asks why he was really following him. Luji explains that he was searching for an old lady who sells alchemical supplies. Sulin recognizes the description and decides to take him there. As they approach, Sulin calls out to the old lady inside, announcing that the person who has been buying pills from him wants to meet her. However, the lady does not respond. Luji starts feeling uneasy. The shop looks more like a witch's hut than an alchemy store. He wonders what he is getting himself into. Luji enters the shop and a man recognizes him. The man asks if he is Luji, and Luji says yes. The man is very grateful for the pills and money. Luji wonders what Sulin has been doing with the pills he gave him. Sulin explains that it was supposed to be a secret, but since Luji followed him, he now knows the truth. The man says that every little help is appreciated. Luji feels a little awkward about being there. Sulin introduces the people in the shop. He tells Luji about Chao Chen and the sleeping one is brother Zhang. Luji notices that Zhang has no chi and asks why. Just then, an old lady appears and explains that the sect crippled Zhang as punishment for saving his friends instead of the son of a powerful cultivator. Luji observes that the old lady has strong cultivation but looks very aged. He asks Sulin if this is why he needed the spirit herbs, and Sulin confirms it. He tells him the old lady named Lang takes care of Zhang. Lu Jie realizes that Su Lin is not as bad as he thought. The old lady tells Lu Jie to look closely at Jiang because this is the fate of those who challenge the powerful. She then invites Lu Jie inside, since he must have come for a reason. After that, Su Lin gives a pill to the old lady. Lu Jie notices that it is the same pill he gave to Su Lin earlier. The old lady examines the pill and finds that the ingredients have been changed, with unnecessary substances and impurities. She criticizes the alchemist who taught Lu Jie. Lu Jie asks if she knows the old alchemist, and she confirms it. She calls him a fool and says no one else would take Lu Jie as a disciple. Lu Jie realizes that she dislikes the sect. Lu Jie then asks why she hasn't joined the alchemy hall, since they usually hunt down alchemists who refuse. She turns the question back to him, and Lu Jie understands that he should not ask personal questions. Lu Jie wants to know more about Jiang's condition. He asks if all crippled cultivators end up like this. Su Lin explains that most can still live normal lives. Lu Jie asks why Jiang's case is different. The old lady says Jiang's cultivation was forcefully destroyed. It is a miracle he even survived, which shows he was very talented. Su Lin gets angry and says that talent did not help Jiang in the end. Lu Jie feels that he is getting too involved in the situation. The old lady tells Su Lin to calm down, but he walks out angrily. Lu Jie thinks about his goal of making cultivation available to all. He sees this as an opportunity to learn. If he can restore Jiang's cultivation, maybe even ordinary people can become cultivators. He asks if there is any way to heal Jiang. The old lady says some rare herbs and elixirs might help, but his cultivation will never fully return. She allows Lu Jie to take what he needs for free, as thanks for the pills he has been providing. Lu Jie gathers his supplies and checks his list. Su Lin is surprised that the old lady let him take things from shelves she has not opened in years. Lu Jie thanks Su Lin for helping him find everything. He also gives Su Lin some pills, but Su Lin refuses since the supplies were free. Lu Jie insists, saying the pills are only a small payment. Su Lin finally takes them and helps Lu Jie carry his things. As they walk back to the sect, Lu Jie says that Su Lin is actually a nice person. Su Lin replies that Lu Jie is very clumsy and tells him to move faster. They continue walking through the street when suddenly a group of people blocks their path. A man with a sword steps forward and calls out to Su Lin. Lu Jie immediately feels scared. He realizes that he may have gotten too involved in things he should have avoided. Su Lin recognizes the group standing in front of them. The man named Zhu with the sword looks ready for a fight. Lu Jie panics, his mind racing. Why did he have to get involved in this mess? Zhu, standing with his gang, sneers at Su Lin and accuses him of stealing spirit stones and cutting off their pill supply. Lu Jie quickly realizes that Su Lin used to work with them smuggling spirit herbs. But when Lu Jie appeared, offering a new and potentially more profitable opportunity, Su Lin betrayed them. Su Lin does not deny it. Instead, he throws the blame back at Zhu, saying they abandoned him first. Zhu and his group grow more furious, their anger clear. Lu Jie knows this is bad. He does not plan on dying a pointless death in a random alley. He needs to do something fast. Stepping forward, he tries to trick, acting like he has no interest in their conflict, but needs Su Lin for his own reasons. He hopes that will be enough to make them back off. Zhu, however, only laughs. He mocks Lu Jie, calling him a righteous sect disciple, and reminds him that numbers are on their side. Inside, Lu Jie is terrified, but he keeps up his act. He warns them once more, hoping they'll walk away, but they don't. Zhu calls his men to grab Su Lin. Lu Jie realizes his trick failed. He only has one more trick left. Just like at the amulet vendor, he prepares to attack. Before he can act, something unexpected happens. Labby suddenly jumps out of his pouch and lands on Zhu's shoulder. Lu Jie panics, trying to stop him, but it's too late. Labby releases a powerful electric shock. Zhu and his gang scream in pain, their bodies trembling as the energy surges through them. Lu Jie and Su Lin freeze, staring in shock. Then, a voice echoes in Lu Jie's mind, telling him to take credit for the attack. Without thinking, he raises his voice, infusing it with qi, and pretends he caused it. He glares at Zhu, demanding to know why he did not listen to the warning. He declares that if they don't value their lives, he won't hesitate to take them, but even now, he is merciful. He offers them one last chance to walk away and forget this ever happened. Labby, still crackling with energy, looks ready to attack again. Zhu and his gang, now terrified, don't hesitate. They turn and run, disappearing into the night. Su Lin, still processing what just happened, looks at Lu Jie with suspicion. He asks what that was. Lu Jie, just as confused, brushes it off, saying he does not know either. He turns to Labby, patting him, and calls him a good boy. Meanwhile, Yan Yun watches from nearby, her expression unreadable. Lu Jie and Su Lin finally notice her presence, both of them looking equally confused. Yan Yun, on the other hand, isn't thinking about the fight. Instead, she starts imagining a dramatic love story between the two of them. The way they look so awkward together, the way they move, it all fits. A spirit voice interrupts her thoughts, telling her to compose herself and act as she would in a noble gathering. She reminds herself that she isn't a deviant, she's just passionate about her hobby. Lu Jie, still confused, asks why she's there. Yan Yun takes a moment before responding. She says she won't question what they were doing outside the sect with thugs. It would be improper in her position. Instead, she'll pretend she never saw anything. Lu Jie and Su Lin exchange awkward glances, unsure how to react. Yan Yun, however, continues her inner fantasy. In her mind, they are star-crossed lovers, kept apart by the world, forced to meet in secret. Her spirit voice once again tells her to stop. Su Lin finally breaks the silence, asking if she was behind the lightning. Yan Yun confirms, saying she saw 2 sect disciples in trouble and couldn't stand by and do nothing. Lu Jie, still curious, asks how she spoke in his mind. Yan Yun explains it's an easy technique and is surprised he hasn't used it to communicate with his spirit. At that moment, Labby suddenly communicates with Yan Yun's spirit. Her spirit, Leiyu, informs her that Labby wishes to speak with her great master. Yan Yun conveys the message to Lu Jie. He gets surprised as he never even considered the possibility. And then another thought hits him. Labby is female. Lu Jie and Yan Yun talk about spirit bonds. Yan Yun is surprised and confused when she realizes Lu Jie does not have a bond with his spirit. Meanwhile, Lu Jie is still processing the fact that Labby is a girl. Yan Yun figures that this must be the reason why Labby cannot communicate with him properly. Lu Jie recalls that he received an art for Labby from the elder right after registering her. The realization sets in that this is something he will need time to get used to. He admits that he never had the time to form a proper bond. Yan Yun acknowledges this but points out something strange. She senses lightning chi in Labby, which is uncommon for a rat. However, she does not sense any lightning chi in Lu Jie. She questions if he is truly ready to have Labby as his spirit. Lu Jie responds that Labby is already his spirit, and this is not a decision he needs to make now. However, he admits that he has not thought much about what it actually means. Yan Yun unexpectedly offers to help him form his bond and give him some advice on how to take care of a lightning spirit beast. Lu Jie is caught off guard by her kindness. He bows and expresses his gratitude for her willingness to help. Nearby, Su Lin watches and questions Lu Jie about Yan Yun. He finds it odd that she was in the alley alone and asks if Lu Jie plans to ask her about it. Lu Jie simply points out that she never asked them why they were there either. Su Lin realizes this is true. Meanwhile, Yan Yun, still blushing, remains quiet, which makes Lu Jie and Su Lin feel awkward. After a moment, she regains her composure and tells them that they should return to the sect, as they have work to do. Later, they arrive at a forest. Yan Yun begins her lesson and assumes that Lu Jie already knows how bonds work. Lu Jie and Labby are eager to learn, but inside, Lu Jie is panicking. Yan Yun explains that bonds can only be formed once a cultivator reaches the second realm and has completed their chi foundation. The spirit's realm also matters. Most of the time, a cultivator can only bond with a spirit that is at least one realm lower than them. This is because the cultivator's chi will sustain the spirit, so they need to have enough of it to support them properly. Fortunately, rats require only a small amount of chi. Labby, however, takes offense to this statement. Seeing her reaction, Lu Jie quickly reassures her, saying that Yan Yun was talking about other spirit rats, not Labby, because Labby's different. Yan Yun keeps explaining, saying spirits can get stronger over time, and some might even get stronger than their cultivator. She uses dragons as an example, saying they're hard to tame when they're young. They've got big pride, and if they think they can take down their master, they'll challenge them. That's why only the strongest cultivators try to bond with them. Yan Yun says she's lucky because her spirit, Lieyu, is part of her family. Her grandfather raised him, and he's almost at her level. She admits that if it wasn't for that, she wouldn't be able to keep him as her spirit. She asks Lu Jie to show her the spirit binding art he got. Lu Jie hesitates for a second, but hands it over, wondering if there's something off about it. After looking at it, Yan Yun tweaks it a bit to make it better for him. Then she hands it back and tells him to check it out before they start the binding process. Lu Jie can't shake the feeling that Yan Yun is being way too nice, and he doesn't get why. He gets back to practicing. Yan Yun tells him to calm his chi, follow the art's paths, and connect with his spirit. Lu Jie gets ready and asks Labby if she's set. Labby replies all hyped up. He moves his chi through his dantian, guiding it through his pathways and outwards. As he does this, he suddenly feels Labby's presence more clearly than ever. At the same time, Labby feels him too. Lu Jie feels something shift in his dantian, like it's making room for Labby and truly accepting her. The bond between them gets stronger. Once it's done, Lu Jie is pumped. Labby, super happy, greets him like he's her great master.